Jury drama, folks. Jury drama in Dedham, Massachusetts in the KarenRead trial. We're going to talk about that. And at the end of the day, can you trust Troopa Proctor? Can you trust Troopa Proctor? Plus the jury drama. This is the Tangent Podcast. I'm Vinny Politan, joined as always on the Tangent Podcast by Al Wunsch III and Jonesy as we co-host and steer this ship. Jury drama. Here's the thing, folks. It happens. It happens. It happens in big cases. It happens in small cases. It happens when everyone is following every witness and every moment of the case. And it happens in a trial that no one's watching except the judge and the court reporter. So it can happen, jury drama. So apparently today, it started with one juror, then a series of jurors were interviewed at sidebar inside the courtroom. The cameras were shut down. And then at the end of the day, the result was one juror was dismissed. So it's now turning into a game of Survivor, Al.
Well, Ben, if I can maybe just go off on a little tangent at this point. I think it's important to address the fact that today, June 14th, is Flag Day in this great country of ours. On June 14th in 1777, the Continental Congress approved the design of our national flag. And it became a holiday in 1916 by President Woodrow Wilson. So please,
are you trying to get the day off? It sounds to me like Al is trying to get the day off, Jonesy. Is that what you're hearing?
I just celebrated by crossing the Betsy Ross Bridge yesterday.
Well, there you go. Okay, that's a good move. All right, that worked out very well. And Philadelphia, very big with the whole Betsy Ross aspect.
Oh yeah, they got that place where they have like a reenactor there all day for the tourists, sewing flags.
So she's constantly sewing a flag like all day, every day, day after day.
Yeah, it's like Groundhog Day.
But it's important. It's important to look at the flag and appreciate the flag and appreciate the fact of the men and women who sacrificed their lives so that flag flies freely over this great country. But there's something else, Ben. June 14th, 1940. Okay.
Oh.
There's a movie that I every time it's on, I have to watch it, and it's a movie called Casablanca. You may have heard of it, okay? Yeah. But there's a great line in that movie. There's hundreds of them, but there's one line that just goes like this: that I remember every detail. The Germans wore gray, you wore blue, and that happened today. The Germans came into and occupied Paris on June 14th, 1940. So that great line that Humphrey Bogart says to Ilsa, okay, that, they talked about the last time they saw each other. And he goes, I remember every detail. The Germans wore gray, you wore blue. That's when the Germans came into Paris and they had to evacuate Paris. But also on this day, another dark.
Wait, but I think you cleared something up because most of the old films from back then that I've seen are black and white. So yes. I wouldn't know who's wearing what color. Thank you.
That's a good point. Thank you.
And Melissa is asking.
I'm sorry,
Melissa. I love your show. Can't wait to watch this one. Can't watch the one you in wait. Okay, here we go. I'll get to you in a second, Melissa. But Bo is like, I thought this was about KarenRead.
Well, but see, you know what? It is about KarenRead, but I think we need to also look at her historical perspective, and I think that's always important. It is Flag Day. We should be celebrating that. The fact about anyone who's watched Casablanca knows now it was June 14th, 1940 that the Germans came in. And in a dark note, okay, today is June 14th, 1940 was also the opening of Auschwitz concentration camp.
Ooh,
so I just wanted to throw that out there for the folks. Gotcha. A little historical diatribe. That's why we're called the Tangent, folks. We don't stay on one topic.
Casablanca is one of the greatest love stories of all time. It just kills me. It slays me every time I see it. And the scene where she pulls a gun on Bogart, just his facial expressions, the way he winces when he tells her, "Go ahead, you'd be doing me a favor." Like, it's just one of the most powerful things you'll ever see.
The dialogue of that movie is so incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, just the lines that come out, and like, Sidney Greenstein's like, they said that it would take a miracle to get out of Casablanca. And in case you didn't know it, the Germans outlawed miracles. Great line. Great line.
Okay. So
back to Karen Read. I'm sorry, folks, for those of you.
No, that people are loving it. So here's my take, and you guys can jump in on your take. Now, we don't know. We don't have the transcript of the sidebars of what the drama was all about. The judge went on the record and said a juror was dismissed, and it was personal in nature. It was personal to the juror, whatever. But here's my take on it. Okay, it wasn't just one juror who was spoken to. It was a series of jurors who came in. And from my experience in covering cases, and this happens a lot, it happened in a trial that I was trying. When you bring in a series of jurors, to me, it's about something that happened between and amongst the jurors, which is usually one juror saying something, and then another juror saying something to the bailiff or whoever they report to about the juror saying something. Are you following me? So if you have more than one juror being questioned and then one juror gets tossed, I believe it may very well be about something that the juror said in front of other jurors.
So one juror is a tattletale.
Well, yeah, that's the way it has to work. It's the only way it works. It has to work like Cuba. You have to, if your neighbor is doing something wrong, you need to report it. And I think jurors are very good about this. It happens all the time. It happens all the time.
From your experience, do jurors ever use that kind of power to get rid of somebody that they just have a personal grudge with, or they think is going to go in a different direction?
Wow, that's a hard one. It's kind of hard to know that. I mean, because we don't. Well, I can't speak for Massachusetts, but in New Jersey, I'm not even allowed to speak to the jurors even after the trial.
Wow, well, that's good for the jurors. They don't have to speak with Al. And now, does it apply to all the lawyers or just you?
Well, I believe it's only me, but they're trying to broaden it to me and anyone who's related to me. So that's how they're trying to.
So how far does this go into the future, Al? If I were a juror and you were you tried the case, and I wanted to hire you someday down the road as my attorney, I wouldn't be able to? No,
that's not a question of that. I can't speak to you about the deliberation. I can't speak to you. You could hire me. That's fine. And I mean, I've been hired by former jurors, but I have an ethical obligation that I'm not allowed to discuss anything with them as to what they did on their case. That doesn't mean that they don't blurt something out every now and then, but I'm not allowed to ask them about it.
Right. You can't. So, and it's different than other jurisdictions. Other jurisdictions, the lawyers go in and they talk like right after the trial. It's almost like an automatic thing. Now, here's another big part of this. You talked about, would they gang up on another juror? Is that possible? Well, I'll tell you what happened in the Scott Peterson case. The foreman had taken copious notes. I think it may have been an engineer or something, but had a stack of books and ended up being the form person. And the rest of the jurors basically engaged in a mutiny. But this was during deliberations, and the foreperson was booted. And it was like a mutiny by the other jurors saying that this person wasn't I don't know what the word was that they used, but wasn't, cooperating with the other jurors. And you lost the foreperson in that one because of the mutiny of the other jurors. Now, at this point, though, what is significant is they're not allowed to talk about the case. They can't comment about anything. Like, that's a basic rule. So is it possible that this juror may have said something or commented about something that happened in the case in front of the other jurors? And those other jurors now would have to be questioned. Can you still remain fair and impartial? Did you hear this, et cetera, et cetera? Did you say this?
I actually thought, Vinny, that the timing when I was looking at it was, the governor of Massachusetts makes this statement, and I didn't know if maybe one of the jurors heard it and may have said something about that.
Well, describe the statement. So a statement was made by the governor of Massachusetts about Trooper Proctor.
Correct.
Right.
And attacking Trooper Proctor and the abhorrent behavior, and we're not going to condone this.
Misogynistic.
Went through all of these machinations about it, and then comes up with, but it's an active trial, so I'm not going to say anything else. I mean, she pretty much destroyed Proctor. They pretty much said that, you know, he's a bad man, this, that, the other thing, because of what he said, and how it was a slight on all women in the state of Massachusetts, if not the United States, if not the world. I mean, it went to that level. And it reminded me of during the Manson trial, when Manson was able to get a copy of a newspaper that came out on August 4th of 1970, in which Nixon, in the headline of the LA Times, said, Nixon declares Manson guilty. And and Manson had that paper. Now, how he got that paper, no one knows, but he got that paper and he picked it up and he showed it to the jury, and he said, there's no sense to have a trial anymore because Nixon's already declared me guilty. And then they moved immediately for a mistrial, which the judge at the time refused to do. Then spoke with each juror about that aspect of it. But I mean, you know, so it was sort of, I mean, not directly similar, but it's sort of on the same vein where somebody.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're talking about the governor of Massachusetts, right? The governor, and commenting on a state trooper who is the lead investigator in this homicide trial. By the way, Al always shares so much historical knowledge. Wow. Should I watch Casablanca tonight? I never really saw it.
Absolutely. Bring a box of tissues.
You have to watch. But you know what, Ben, I want to just say one thing, a sort of negative comment about the fact that somebody didn't like movie reviews, and the person's name was St. Elmo's Fire. Is that is that an oxymoron, emphasis on moron, of all time?
Hey, don't attack. Stop.
Hey, so, you know, what these things with the governor making a comment and the president making a comment about Manson, it's kind of impossible to ignore that if you are not a sequestered juror, because you can just walk by a newspaper machine or a newsstand and see the headline.
You have to self-report. You have to self-report if you do see something. That's why every morning the judge asks the jury and puts it on the record. Have you seen or heard or anything? And if someone says yes, then they're going to have a little conversation outside the presence of the rest of the jurors and find out if this juror can still be fair and impartial. Because it can happen. Like, you could see something, but still remain on the jury, I think.
Yeah.
But the question is, would you be influenced by the governor basically throwing the lead investigator under the bus, which, you know, some people believe that's where he deserves to be. But yeah, it could be about that as well. It could be maybe, but I think it'd be a combination of that, Al. It could be that someone started talking about that. See, my whole point is, if you've got more than one juror in there, it's usually about a comment or a conversation that happened. Now, in the trial where I had jury drama, what happened was, after court, 3 of the jurors, or 2 or 3 of the jurors, were seen in the parking lot by the judge as well, because the judge's window was in the parking lot. You could see the parking lot. We're speaking to each other after court. And that's concerning, right? Are they talking about the case? So we bring the jurors in, ask them what they're talking about. And they said it had nothing to do with the case, so they all stayed on. But it's significant. It's absolutely significant.
Well, I had a jury drama situation in a case where there's a criminal case, and I go into the hallway, and the lead investigator had just got a new iPhone. And at this time, it was like the iPhones had just come out. So it was like 15, maybe 17 years ago. And was sitting there with the jury, showing them how to work it in the hallway of the courthouse in Hackensack, New Jersey. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And they were all sitting there watching, and they were like, wow, looking at this, look at it. And he was handing out the phone, showing it to the people and everything else. And then went in, and the judge was a guy by the name of Don Venezia. And Don said,
Oh, Don.
Right?
Wunsch
The
man,
name alone.
Wunsch man. Do you think that would be enough to throw out the jury on this? And I said, well, I think it's a pretty bad situation, Judge. And he said, I'll give them a limiting instruction.
He
And
called
so
you lunch pail?
I'm sorry?
He called you lunch pail?
Wunsch man.
Oh, lunch man.
Wunsch man. That's what he would always call me. Don and I used to do voiceover work for Time Warner Cable, which is where I got to meet Vinny for the first time when he was working with Channel 10 News in Palisades.
All local all the time.
All local all the time.
No, I'm sorry. Your town, your story.
That's right. Your town, your story. That's correct. And Vinny was there, and that's when we came up with Bergen County Justice, and the rest is history. But Don Venezia and I would be doing voiceover work. Then he became a Superior Court judge, and so he always called me Wunsch man. But I have to point out something also, that Melly thinks I should get detention, I guess, for the oxymoron
Yes, I agree.
So then I humbly apologize, because I don't want to get anyone mad. And
that means your punishment would be they would get more of you if you're in detention. Yeah. You have to
I'm trying to think where I could put him. Where can maybe you go to the bottom. There you go. You're on the bottom now.
Oh, wait a minute. You can't do that.
And then I put you over here, and
you're done.
Covered. So can you please recap what happened with the two jurors? Well, one juror is gone, Gringo. Right. Thank you, Gringo. One juror is gone. The judge did not get into the specific reasoning, saying it was something personal. I'm looking for the actual quote here in a second, if I can find it. But at the end of the day, it hasn't been revealed. But more than one juror was marched into the courtroom. I think it was about 4 jurors came in and were questioned at sidebar by the judge, and one juror was in and out, and that is the juror who ended up getting booted from the trial. So you lose one, you have alternates. I think there were 4 alternates to begin with, so they're fine there. And the question is, has the jury been tainted? Right, tainted jury. So at least one juror said something or did something that they should not have, or had some sort of conflict, or came across some information and could no longer serve. So that juror is gone. So that's where we are. That's where we are in terms of the drama that happened. But it's not. I have to say it's not that unusual. It just isn't, because jurors in most cases aren't sequestered. They walk in and out, and they see things, and issues come up, but they can be dealt with. In this situation, though, this jury is being protected much more than a normal jury. Like, they meet in one place and are brought into the courthouse together. They are shielded from the KarenRead supporters and protesters outside. So it was kind of shocking to see that one of them is now gone. But at the end of the day, I don't think it'll be a long-standing or a lingering issue here. But it will be interesting to see if we find out exactly what happened here, to see if it gives us any indication on what was going through the mind of this juror who's been watching this trial, 24 days of testimony. So that's the part that's interesting. Like, anytime a juror is dismissed in a big case, we would always try to track down the juror, because now in most jurisdictions they're free to talk. And I remember in Scott Peterson, juror gets dismissed for saying good morning to I think it was Lacey's brother at the security line, and got dismissed and walked out of the courthouse and was surrounded by everyone. And the Today Show grabbed him, put him in a plane, and flew him to New York. And then he told his story.
So if you are one of those jurors who are inclined to try to make something out of yourself as far as celebritydom or journalism is concerned, after a high-profile trial, you could purposely get yourself kicked off and then walk right out into the arms of like the agent outside who's going to get you the best deal.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to get a great deal.
Right. You wouldn't get a great deal.
You're not going to be able to write the book. The book is about the verdict.
Right. So being in the deliberation, then what are you going to say? Well, I thought that. I mean, it doesn't make much sense.
So what happened in Scott Peterson?
FaceTime.
Yeah. Well, this juror got a lot of FaceTime for a while until the actual jury deliberated. But he was going to vote not guilty for Scott Peterson. He was a Scott Peterson not guilty vote. And that then became the story for a while. Like, are prosecutors proving this? Or are they going to send Scott Peterson home when it seems like he was clearly an outlier of the members of that jury? And Mouthy Mama Grandma, I liked and shared. Have you? Yes, please like it. Melly's got something for us. Hi, fellas. So isn't the courtroom the responsibility of the judge?
Well, yeah. I mean, the judge runs the courtroom, but there are different aspects of it. The court clerk does certain things. The security does some other things. And, so it works from that standpoint. The judge is ultimately the head. But, if you go into a courtroom, you'll see that the judge's law clerk and the judge's, assistant or secretary, legal secretary, or anything along those lines has a lot of power in that courtroom and directs how things are going. So they don't bother the judge on the menial stuff that goes on.
May I make a motion?
Yeah, motion.
I motion to remove Al from detention. I think he has served his penance.
Okay. He's out on bond. Darcy.
There's a lot of time. So there's a lot of time in detention in my youth. I hate to tell you.
I bet you did.
I never did.
Neither did I. I was late in high school. When I was late, they gave me like 3 7:45s or something like that, where you come in at 7:45 in the morning. But I didn't do anything bad. It was just
no detention for me. And my most coveted award, my senior year was
Miss Congeniality.
No, Gym Student of the Year, outstanding in gym.
So
because I brought it, whether it was floor hockey or scooter keep away.
Was it also the way you wore your uniform? Like, was your shorts nice and crisp?
I brought the energy. Some people didn't like to get changed for gym. I got changed every time. Now, Darcy Johnson. Okay. I've only followed bits and pieces of this case. So if the question has been answered, I'm sorry. Never apologize, Darcy. The wounds on his arm, did he get them through his clothes or were his clothes put back on over the wounds? But to me, it doesn't make sense that a car would go through a shirt and a coat. So it was a blizzard, but he's a big, tough Boston cop. So he only had a sweatshirt on, and there were puncture cuts through his sweatshirt. So whatever caused those scratches or cuts on his arms went through his sweatshirt. He wasn't wearing a jacket or a coat. And what is the difference between a jacket and a coat?
Jacket, I think I would describe a jacket as either a light jacket that doesn't have a lot of warmth to it, or a sport coat, whereas a coat would be something that you wear to huddle and be warm with.
Wait, you just said a sport coat is a jacket.
Yeah, it's a jacket.
You just said a sport coat is a jacket.
I think a jacket stops at the waist, but a coat keeps on going.
Yeah, but
how could a sports coat not be a coat?
Well, because it's not a coat. It's called a sport coat, but it is actually
a jacket. It's called a sport jacket. We're a sports jacket.
No, it's a sports coat. Put on a nice sports coat. Listen. Hey, we're going out to dinner. You don't need a tie. Just put on a nice sports coat.
Hey. Here's my point. You go into a nice place and it says jackets required, and you don't have one. What do they give you? A sport coat.
No, they give you a jacket.
No, they give you a sport coat.
It says jackets required, so you get a jacket, right?
Maybe at Spiro's in Philadelphia, but not where I go, pal.
Cosmic Kitchen, hi all, sending love from the UK. Always getting love from the UK.
Big in the UK.
So let's get to, and I think this is an important part of this case. Let's talk a little bit about Trupa Proctor. To me, a lot of people are looking at what happened to him You know, part of his direct, what came out, obviously, but also the way it came out on cross, that this was game over cross-examination, that the trial was literally over the minute he stepped off the stand, and that there's no way this jury can find Karen Read guilty beyond a reasonable doubt because of the conduct of Trooper Proctor.
And that's a red herring.
Interesting. Do expand. Why? Why is this a red herring?
Because the thing is this: nothing that he said is material to the case. It deals with his opinion on her. It's comments that were not polite, that were not proper, were not professional. And if anyone thinks that any other person who's doing an investigation doesn't have similar types of comments made, then you're deluding yourself. I mean, just take a look at the old movies that were, go on, like French Connection and stuff like that. What the cops used to do to get confessions, what the cops used to do with regards to their investigation. I don't like that guy. You know why? He wears a hat that I don't like. Okay. And comments like that. Nobody ever thought twice about that. Then the OJ trial comes. Okay. Now, in the OJ trial, okay, and Vinny, you brought this up that, Mark Furman is the number one.
Wait. He called her the C word.
Yeah, that was terrible. That's perhaps the most offensive word in the English language. We've spoken about it before. In Britain, they use it pretty commonly, but in America, that is, bad news.
He also wanted, and he not only did, but he used it in text messages with his superiors.
I'm not in any way condoning what he said.
I know you're not.
But the bottom line is this, is that it did not affect the investigation. He testified that it had nothing to do with what he did in his investigation.
Let me ask you this.
I'll also say that any time a cop is killed, okay, these guys have a different mindset with regards to what's going on. Why? Because they're the ones that are out there that are putting their lives on the line on a daily basis. They're the ones that may not be coming home at night, okay? Cops and firemen have a job that is absolutely superhuman with regards to what they do. But let's keep this in mind. They're also human, okay? They also make mistakes. Locker room language. We got a president elected who made a locker room comment, okay?
Wait.
But no one affects that. They say it's a locker room comment. He made locker room comments. They're not appropriate.
Objection, Mr. Politan. We do not go there.
But I'm just saying that locker room comments are locker room comments. They're not appropriate. Okay. And I'm not condoning it, but it's not the situation that Furman did. And Furman's situation was another red herring.
Wait. No. Furman wasn't a red herring.
I disagree with you.
Because Furman was asked, did you plant any evidence in this case?
And he took the Fifth Amendment.
So because that's not a red herring.
Wait a minute. That's not. No. What was asked of him, has he ever, done a phony report, or had he ever done something along those lines? That's what he took on the Fifth. And then the evidence down was that, and he had to take the Fifth again, because no cop has gone through his entire career without
planting evidence. Stop.
No, look, with regards to the fact that, letting somebody go, we shouldn't let go, or something along those lines.
Let me ask you this, Al, because this was the question that was asked in court. By the way, Gen X pointing out that Vinny wore a members-only jacket back in the day.
Who did?
That's it. It stops at the waist when the coat's just picking up speed.
A coat is heavier and has more length, says Jennifer.
Yes. That's what I just said. Picking up speed.
That's kind of what I said.
Yeah. Okay. So he was asked, was this investigation conducted with integrity? What's the answer to that question?
Investigation was conducted with integrity.
Where you are sending text messages, number one, sharing information 16 hours in with your high school buddies.
I don't condone.
Wait. I'm just pointing some things out. Sharing information with your sister, about who he has to interview.
I like that. I like that
interview his sister's friends. His sister's friends. He's going to interview. And he's telling his sister that he's going to interview his sister's friends.
Okay.
Well, Al, you don't have to condone it to realize it's really, really bad, man. When I was watching it, it's just it got worse and worse.
How about commenting on the hotness,
other than the comments? Other than the comments, okay? Other than those comments, what else did he do wrong? Okay. What else did he do with his investigation?
Let me tell you.
Well, he drank on the job. That's like not a very good sign, right?
Obviously, you've never been involved with New York police in the 1970s.
Of course, that's why I actually did feel a little sorry for him, because I thought to myself, yeah, okay, he had a beer or whatever on the job, and now he is being destroyed.
He's entered and signed several affidavits, not one, but several affidavits saying that the murder weapon, which is the alleged murder weapon, which is Karen Read's vehicle, was seized at 5:31. Then there was some video uncovered showing that the actual time of the seizure was at 4:12.
Scrivener error.
Yeah, that's what he said. How is that a Scrivener's error?
A mistake on time happens all the time.
No. 5:31 is when it was brought to the Canton Sally Port, but it was actually seized from Karen Read's father's home at 4:16 or 4:12. It was actually 4:12, and then it was like 5:36. It enters the Sally Port. That's a big difference.
Okay, so you throw the whole thing out based on that. The fact that
we're talking about the integrity of the investigation.
No, the integrity of the investigation is the fact that all of that was made available to the defense. All of that was made available to the prosecution. The prosecution made it up, took it and went forward with it, and then the defense went on it. They're hanging their hat on that. I am not in any way convinced she did it or didn't do it. Okay, I've got to wait until the defense is going. So I am not on looking to get her convicted. So just so everyone is going to start yelling at me because I'm being sympathetic with regards to this cop, just understand this. That's what I do. I protect cops. I represent police officers.
What should happen to this officer?
He's going to be disciplined, and he probably in this day and age will be fired.
I don't know if he's going to be fired. He could. I don't know. They have a union, so that it becomes a union.
Well, they do have a union, but the thing is that the problem is that in something like this, he's never going to be able to put together a report. The same thing with Furman. You're never going to be able to do something again without it being tainted. So he's done. He's not going to be able to sign a report.
How about for other pending homicide investigations? What does it do for those cases? Because we have another.
It raises a huge problem. They're sitting there right now going, I'm getting that transcript, and they're going to be going forward on that. Wow. And then they're going to be looking into his text messages on that situation. It leads to a Brady situation. There's a case called U.S. v. Brady, which is a Supreme Court decision with regards to the fact that the prosecution has to give everything they have and anything that could be possibly, show that there is some sort of an issue with regards to the police officer or any of the witnesses. Okay, this makes it a very serious Brady situation.
Yeah.
Furman was never able to be a cop again. Okay, and I think that Proctor is going to be going by the wayside also as a result of this.
Is this a more serious Brady situation than when Greg was reading the album cover while he was driving home with I think it was Bobby in the car?
Well,
that's dangerous. And
I thought that the assault
not to drive our car anymore.
I thought the assault with the football was probably more serious. Oh, my nose!
I have to go with when he was caught smoking.
I have to go with when Marsha lied about bringing Davy Jones to the prom.
Did she lie?
How did she lie?
She did. She said that she was going to be able to get him to play at the prom. But okay, no. She didn't have him. What happened was she went to the recording studio when he was going, "Girl, look what you've done to me," and was singing that song. And he heard by mistake that she was crying and saying, well, he said if he was ever in the area that, to contact him because I'm the president of his fan club. And then he found out who she was and visited the house and then went to the prom with her and performed at the prom. But she initially lied, Ben. Okay, so there was a Brady situation there. Yeah. That's where the term comes from.
Brady.
The Brady situation with Davy Jones.
Well, how about when Jan lies about having a boyfriend?
Or when she had the the dark hair.
Leave Jan alone. She takes
she does.
That middle, like Peter never had problems as a middle child, but Jan did. Now June is writing, "Hi, Karen answered reporters on the stairs of the courthouse yesterday. She spoke about the DNA and that prosecutors waste taxpayers' money. I was wondering where the defendant was. It gives me Bundy's vibe." So June not feeling it. I always like to react to that because I think that's always a silly argument made by defense attorneys and other people talking about wasting taxpayers' money when it comes to criminal justice, because compared to the real waste by government, compared to the money that goes towards like trying to figure out if someone's been a victim of a crime and investigating criminal behavior, I think is like this compared to the taxpayer waste that takes place in all the other branches of government. And I know Al agrees with me.
Right. It's a tagline. I mean, it's one of those things you throw out there when you don't have anything else to say. You just go, "This is a waste of taxpayers' money." It's a battle cry that goes nowhere. No one takes any excitement on it, and it's a stupid thing to say. I agree. Because this is investigating a murder, or a death. So
hey. Maureen McDermott said, "Hey, Vinny, your Boston accent is getting pretty good."
Yeah, I was going to say,
you're an honorary Bostonian.
I was cracking up that every time you keep doing that, and it was people are going to think I was being rude that I was laughing on something serious, but it's just listening to you go, the sister and all the other kind of stuff. I felt like I was dealing with Whitey Bulger.
Okay, how about this now, Al? How about this? Because CN Red Flags is writing, "The trial is completely over because of all the frat boys rushed to judgment," right? And by the way, this is unbelievable. Every police witness on the stand, I cannot pick them apart out of a lineup. They all have the same exact look. They have the shaved heads. They're all about the same age, about the same, they're kind of fit. It's amazing how they're all so alike, but the jury is seeing that as well. Do you think this will be an issue for anyone in the jury, that they're all talking to each other, making up their minds very quickly within 16 hours that this is a no-brainer, this case is over?
It does add to the idea that they're like, the solid clique that comes to a conclusion and sticks with one another on it. The image of everybody looking exactly alike. It's just, psychologically, I would think that you would feel that way.
We have a dead cop. Okay. They're going to be talking amongst themselves, and it's going to be that type of a thing. But I don't think, look, I don't believe any cop wants an innocent person in jail for something they didn't do. And I know that I have seen in the past that when something has happened along those lines, it's sometimes the retired cops that come back trying to, right the wrong that they saw that they weren't sure of or something along those lines. I don't think any cop that I know of wants an innocent person in jail.
But here's the thing, Al. Here's what makes this different, right? And this is the different element of this case, is that the other potential suspects, according to the defense, and a lot of people are watching this trial, are police officers, right? Because it's a police officer who's found dead on the front lawn of another police officer. They're both from Boston PD. So another issue here is the pressure. Is there an extra level of pressure for them to solve this case quickly? Number one, clean it up quickly, because if you have a Boston police officer involved in the death of another Boston police officer, that's a major problem for Boston PD.
You have a major problem as soon as you have the death of a police officer. Okay. I mean, anytime, when I was a prosecutor, Vinny, when you were a prosecutor, God forbid something happened to us, there's an immediate investigation. And what is the first thing they do? They take a look at our case list, and they take a look and see, what's going on, and who would have a motive or something along those lines. You don't know if that cop was being sought out by someone who he had arrested, that a trial was coming up, or something along those lines. Anytime there is a death of a police officer or any law enforcement official, there is always a heightened sense of emergency with regards to this. Not to mention the fact also that anyone who is willing to kill a police officer is a tremendous danger to society and the community. So, I think there's always going to be a heightened sense of emergency when there's a death of a law enforcement official. I mean, look, let's go back to Proctor again. Okay. My biggest complaint about Proctor was that he probably, because of his relationships with them, with the different individuals there, should not have been participating in the investigation. He should have taken a step back. That is one thing I do believe, that it was foolish for him to be involved in this in the first place, because of the interpersonal relationships that he had with witnesses and with other people that he was investigating. That was a foolish thing for him to do.
So let me just outline the connection, right? So he's not necessarily friends with Brian Albert, the homeowner, or Julie. Is it Julie, his wife? I may be confusing the wives' names momentarily, but he was friends with, or his sister is really good friends with the sister of Brian Albert, or sister-in-law of Brian Albert, and their husband and their son. And they had been over to his parents' house, and he had been to, I think, a wedding, the same wedding with them. So there was definitely a connection there. And then he's also connected to Brian Albert's brother, who was a Canton police officer and worked a cold case with him, and was a drinking buddy of his, and had at one point, Brian Albert, the homeowner's brother, who's a Canton cop, was with Trooper Proctor, and they were drinking, and he left his gun and badge in Trooper Proctor's car. So all of this has come out. So there's definitely enough of a connection that I think you're right, Al, that there's good reason to sort of just sit this one out. I know you want to be in it because you want to get justice for the police officer and his family, but maybe you got to sit it out.
Right. I mean, it does give you a, there's an inference that maybe it was inappropriate for him to be doing something along those lines. And whenever you have a situation like that, it is just best to take a step back. And he didn't do that. Okay. All the other stuff is window dressing. And it really does not have, it's not material to the case. And that was my argument with regards to Furman. Okay, Furman's comments that he made, okay, because he was trying to get a book deal, he was trying to work with a movie, and he was going to make 10 grand if he did it or whatever. And he used the N-word, and he used other words that were inappropriate, and he talked about doing these things of planting evidence and things along those lines. It was a fictional novel that he was, or a fictional movie script that he was working with somebody on. His actions at the scene, his actions at the investigation, everything else along those lines, no one was able to discredit him on that.
No,
they discredited him.
But he was asked if you ever planted evidence.
No, but that's not. But Ben, you're taking it out of context because of the fact that
the jury didn't take it out of context.
At that point, he had been read a perjury charge. Okay, he had been read that he was looking at a potential perjury charge. They stopped the trial. They let him get a lawyer. What's his lawyer going to say? Listen, okay, did you ever fix a ticket? Yeah. Okay, so somebody came in and you said, okay, you know what, Your Honor, I didn't remember it individually. Therefore, the ticket dismissed. Yeah, I've done that. Okay, has a friend of yours ever said, listen, my buddy got speeding. Would you be willing to forget about it? Yeah, I've done that. So that is doing something improper. Okay, and if you're going to stand up there, and the other problem was that Furman, they found these tapes. The prosecution didn't even have these tapes. They found these tapes of him through their investigation and through things along those lines. He had no idea what they had on him. They could have brought up his neighbor who said, yeah, he fixed 3 tickets for me, and that would have caught him in another perjury situation. He ended up being tried for we ended up being charged with perjury, which was bogus because, once again, perjury requires it to be a material aspect of the case that he was lying about, which he did not do. And then he pled no contest, which you can do in California. You can't do that in New Jersey. I don't believe you can do that in Massachusetts.
All right, I have the exact quote here. Detective Furman, did you plant or manufacture any evidence in this case?
Right. And he said,
I assert my Fifth Amendment privilege.
But what was the question they asked? You have to look at the question before, Vinny. Okay, that's the question.
Have you ever falsified a police report?
There you go. Okay, and I just told you, you put that in there, and if you take fifth for one, you got to take fifth for all. That's what we tell people when they go on the stand. If you watch even those mafia trials, okay, it's like, are you known as Don Vito Corleone? I refuse to answer that question on the grounds it may incriminate me. Did you eat at Bruno's Clam Bar the other day? I refuse to answer that question on the grounds it may incriminate me. You answer it for one, you answer it for all. And that's what he was instructed, and that's what he did. Okay? So there is a big difference with regards to him and this officer, but this officer's comments, and the sad part about it was, you look at it, it actually became State versus Furman in the OJ trial. Yeah. Okay.
He's the only one convicted at from the trial.
And that was that was it. And it was all and I will tell you, it was a red herring. Okay. The fact that he used the N-word, the fact that he had
that part I understand. But if I'm a juror and I have the lead investigator, and this is the analogy. If you have the lead investigator on the stand taking the fifth when asked if he planted evidence in this case, what am I as a juror supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Am I still supposed to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? Or is there a reasonable chance that he could have planted evidence in this case?
If I were the juror, I would think like, yeah, he not only is there a reasonable chance, it sounds to me like he did it.
Yeah, right.
I don't have Al there to explain this to me unless you're on the jury.
Right.
So my initial reaction is going to be like, wow, man, they got him. He did it.
Yeah.
That's why the prosecution dropped the ball with what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what you're there for. You're there to go.
You got to navigate around problems like so. Now let's do the analogy of this. Now this, he did not say he's being accused of planting evidence. Okay. He's never been asked the question though. Even on cross, they never asked him if he planted the evidence, but that's what he's being accused of in this case. It's super clear, super clear. And part of the argument is that he's lying about what time he sees the car because he's taking pieces of that tail light off of the alleged murder weapon and planting it back at the scene because no one finds any piece of tail light until 4 days later. Like no one finds tail light until the car has been seized, right? And the car isn't seized the first day. So that's how they're sort of trying to put the pieces together, the defense. So now it comes down to integrity, doesn't it? The integrity of the investigation and integrity of the investigator, right? Isn't that part of the analysis that this jury will go through?
Okay, but is the integrity because the guy uses bad words? Does that mean he's not a good investigator?
No, he's not just using bad words. It's bad words about the defendant. He says, I hope she takes her own life. He's saying within 16 hours that she's absolutely guilty after interviewing 3 witnesses, like getting statements from 3 witnesses, and he's already convinced of her guilt. I mean, it's that. It's let me look at some other things here because I have a list. There's just so many of them.
Okay, but wait, before you go on the list, okay, let's
looking for nudes. Okay, here now back to the integrity. He jokes. He says he's joking, but is he joking with his superiors about confiscating the defendant's phone and telling them that he didn't find any nudes yet? I didn't find any nudes. Jonesy, not news, nudes with a D. meaning naked pictures of the suspect, then commenting with his high school buddies and others about the looks and the appearance of the suspect in this case, about her body and her level of hotness, then commenting upon her medical condition. She has some gastro problems that, according to this, causes a leaky valve, a bottom valve that is leaky. I'm trying not to be disgusting here or gross or inappropriate, but these are the things that he is texting about and back and forth, including with superiors, the people he reports to at the Massachusetts State Police. So that's the larger picture when we talk about the integrity of the investigator and the integrity of the investigation.
As a Al, you know all the ins and outs of this kind of thing, but as a guy who just watched the testimony yesterday, like, if I were on the jury, like, it just leaves me thinking, like, this is a bad man, this is a bad case, like, I mean, of course there's other evidence and stuff, but I walked away from that feeling sorry for him, because it was just relentless. It just got worse and worse as times went on, and he was melting on the stand. He must have been so relieved when the prosecution took over. But I, as a layman, I walk away from it like, wow, this is a bad man here.
Okay, so OJ goes free, right? Because it becomes State versus Furman. There's anyone in the United States doubt that he was the one that was responsible for those murders?
Yes,
okay.
There are.
Okay, there are some, but I would say that if we're going to do a majority of the people that are watching us now, okay, they're all going to say he was guilty. All right, he went free because what they turned it into was an attack on Furman. All right, and it was State versus Furman, and the victims did not get justice. It's sad, okay, but police officers, believe it or not, folks, they're human. They have the same stupid mistakes that we make. Wait a minute, let me finish. That they have the same foibles, the same prejudices, the same foibles. You don't like that word?
A foible.
A foible? Get out your Funkin' Wagnalls and take a look at it. Okay, look it up.
Yeah, it's like a furry little doll you play with.
Vinny, I could tell you, but then you wouldn't learn. Okay, by looking it up, you will learn.
If you told him, he would learn.
No, that's not true. When you look it up, then you're going to remember it. Remember?
Okay. But Salty Bird wants to talk about the red herring. I just love that the Salty Bird wants to talk about the red herring. It is still material, and it taints his integrity. The jury instructions will say that if they think a witness lied about one thing,
yes,
they are free to consider the rest a lie.
That's true. False in one, false in all is one of the jury charges that you can get. At least I know in New Jersey. I'm not sure in Massachusetts. It's a Commonwealth. I would imagine it's probably the same thing, but I can't say for sure. So I will say that that's the situation. All right. I am not once again, I see all the negative comments about me because I'm defending a cop. But let's keep this in mind, folks. Okay. I am not stating unequivocally that she's guilty or she's not guilty. I am looking that there is justice done in this case for everyone, and especially the victim. And that's all I look for. Okay. And I get a little, miffed when I see that you go off on an issue, okay, that is not material. And I disagree with Salty Dog. It is not material. The fact that he's called her a C word, the fact that he's called her this, that, the other thing, that he made childish, stupid comments does not affect what the investigation was. It may make him a complete douchebag. Okay, absolutely. Well, that's not a bad word. That you say that on the. You can say that. It may make him that. And I'm not saying he's a nice guy. I wouldn't want to hang out with him. I wouldn't want to have a beer with him. Okay, but I'm telling you this. Okay, if we saw what happened when you make the trial State versus Furman, are we going to make it now State versus Proctor? Are we going to deny justice to the victims? To the victim of this, to the fact that this police officer is dead? Okay. If she's not guilty, I hope she's found not guilty. If she's guilty, I hope she's found guilty.
But you don't want it done as a result of his text messages. So
but the text message is exactly right. The text message has nothing to do with it.
He's miffed at my foibles.
He's miffed at the foibles. That's correct.
Now, you were talking about you wouldn't want to have a beer with him, but check this out. Flora Marie says being at a bar, having drinks and wings with you guys has to be priceless.
I think that is.
I will tell you this:
kindest compliments.
Anyone's invited. You let me know. I got a place. Vin. They got the best wings.
Let me put this on the record though. Number one, I don't drink. Okay, so I'd be having club soda. Number two, I can't do spicy anymore.
Oh, I hate spicy.
Oh.
When I was at Court TV, there was a wing place around the corner, and all the guys would go there and get the wings that were like number 30, the highest, most hottest ones. I'd be sitting around with them in the office, and they'd be sweating while they eat. There's no reason to be sweating while you're eating a little itty bitty wing.
So, okay, well, folks, I will do the spicy, and I will do the drinking. So we're golden.
And Jonesy and
I'll do the drinking.
Yeah, there you go. And I will have a Diet Coke and some chicken tenders. But I think Flora Marie has a great idea here, though.
Well, the conversation would flow.
We could when the three of us are together somewhere, we can publicize it, turn it into a meetup. You know, not like a pay for stand in line. No, you meet up. The three of us will be at blah blah blahs from blah 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 to blah blah blah. Come by, say hi. One of those, kind of like a meetup.
I don't like blah blah blahs.
Yeah, I just don't
blah
know
blah blahs once, and
I don't know the next time I'm going to be in Jersey. Although I will be in 2025. Have you heard about this? Yeah, I have a big to celebrate a big milestone birthday. I'm doing a year-long tour of events. And I'm sending out things to all my friends and family and say, listen, here's the list of, you guys will get it. Here's a list of places that I'm going to be and things I'm going to be doing to celebrate this milestone.
Okay, so you're not doing like a television related or an
no.
So you're telling your friends I'll be at Giant Stadium for the Jet game or something.
Yeah, exactly. But there can be a little crossover for a couple of these. But I'll definitely be in Jersey more than once during that year to do some of the things that I'm going to do. But this could be one of them. This could be really cool. We go to a bar, we have some wings, and we let the folks know. I think that'd be fun.
I'm all for it, and I will be.
No presents though. No presents for me. That's the one caveat of this tour I'm doing to celebrate.
I wasn't even thinking of it. Don't worry about it.
Then I don't go anywhere without a present, so I'm sorry.
As my dad would say, I'll get you the same thing I got you last year, which was nothing.
Okay, this is a trial insider. He's part of the starter of the Facebook page, Justice for John O'Keefe, Officer John O'Keefe, and Free Karen Read. The juror out the other day was due to personal issues, and then today the juror told another juror that she doesn't like that Karen smiles.
Oh,
well,
wait a minute
about that.
This is so you've got a juror told another juror that she doesn't like that Karen smiles. So here we have. So there's a couple different ways to look at this, right? I'm just going to give you my thoughts off the top because this is huge. This is huge, right? So if a juror doesn't. If one of the jurors, I believe it's a female juror, doesn't like the way that Karen smiles, that gives us an indication of, number one, the jury notices everything, right? They're looking at Karen Read, and at least one of them, who's no longer on the jury, did not like Karen Read, which is bad for the defense. But I think there's a second way to look at this. There's a juror who heard this and heard something and said something. And I don't want to say narked because that has a negative connotation. This juror did what you're supposed to do if someone's talking about the case. So I don't want, but like, yeah, narked on her, but like not in a negative way, but it's told that. But maybe the juror who reported this other juror was offended by that.
I learned in second grade not to tattle when I tattled on somebody, and the teacher punished me for tattling.
Get the mark of the squealer.
Yeah, but you're instructed
right
to squeal. But you're instructed to squeal.
Johnny Maestro, the Brooklyn Bridge, has a scar. He's passed away. Beautiful singer, amazing singer, also in the Crests. He had a scar from here to here. And I always thought it was like the mark of the squealer or something, right? And it's so disappointing when you read his biography when he claims he fell out of a crib at a young age. Because you see like a guy, you know, that works the entertainment business with that kind of scar, you jump to conclusions.
Alphonse Capone's scar was not in a knife fight or anything along those lines. It was a fall down.
So what do you think of this particular issue that a juror, number one, didn't like the way Karen Read smiles inside the courtroom?
Okay. From my standpoint, it's why I tell my clients when we're on trial that they have to have the poker face the entire time, that they can't show any emotion, they can't show any disgust, any disdain, anything along those lines, because they're being sized up by the jury. And that's a perfect example of it. Okay, she does, you know, I mean, I understand that she's got MS, and I know that there's some facial tics that she has and things along those lines, which you can't stop. Okay, but you know, it just shows you that the jury is doing what a jury's supposed to do. They're watching everything, and that's another good sign that at least I know they're watching everything. So that would make me happy from the standpoint of trying the case on either side.
Happy from which side? Both sides?
Well, happy from the sense that on the defense side, I got rid of somebody who I think was going to be voting guilty.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
so I certainly we're going to be happy on that. But I'm also now going to advise my client, you got to stop. Okay, you got to have the poker face. If you're going to, you know, do something, just keep this in mind. They're watching. They're watching everything.
So when I watched the Trupa's testimony, what I noticed about her is that there was a lot of times her body language said like, yeah, told you so. And you know, that didn't bother me. I don't know how other people would feel about it, because maybe it was sincere. Maybe she didn't do it and she's like, see, you know, check this out. Hold my beer and check this stuff out.
Okay. Thank you from Nick Rocco giving us some insight into all this. He's on my show every night as one of my trial insiders. Now, Q is saying Proctor and McCabe have a dirty little secret, right? And here's what I'm wondering, right? Because a lot of people are watching this case. A lot of people are watching this case. And an inordinate number of people, as is usually the case on court TV, are questioning the prosecution and the investigators. Do you think that coincides with what's happening in the jury box? And here is the only analogy I'll make of this, is that we saw what happened during the Johnny Depp case. Like, that took over social media, and it was clear, overwhelmingly clear, that the public and social media was Team Johnny and not Team Amber. And in the end, the jury was totally in sync with the way the public was seeing and hearing the evidence. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, you know, I see that there are a lot of comments that people keep saying that, you know, Proctor hid evidence or things along those lines. Jury's going to be instructed that they have to take a look at the evidence that's in front of them. They're not allowed to surmise or to come up with some things and to have theories that have not been demonstrated by the evidence presented. And thus far, I have not seen anything that he's hid. Okay, you may not like the way he investigated it. You certainly don't like his code of conduct. And I can agree with that. I don't think it was a good idea for him to handle the investigation from the first place, because of the fact that he had some, you know, connections to some of the people he was going to be interviewing. And I don't condone what he did with regards to using words that were inappropriate and conduct that was like a high school student. Okay, I mean, that's really what it was, sophomoric high school student.
Well, it was with his high school buddies.
Well, that makes sense. You know, I mean, I always said
And his superiors, though. That's
I
the
always
problem.
said, I always said, and I still say to this day that police departments are like going back to high school. You have the same type of factions. You know, you got the pretty boys, you got the athletes, you got the complainers, you got the nerds, and you got everything else down the line.
Motorheads. At my high school, we had the motorheads, we had the jocks, we had the beautiful people, obviously, and then we had the nerds. So
and you've got that in a police department, and these guys carry guns, unfortunately. But that's
we're trying to figure out where you were, Al. Where were you? Were you at the jocks in high school?
Well, Vin, as an Iron Man, and the fact that I'm in the Don Bosco Hall of Fame for football.
Okay. You're with the jocks. You're with the jocks.
I was with the jocks, but I was also the class clown. So it was kind of a situation along those lines.
Jonesy, where were you?
Well, there were the deadheads in Kearney High School. A lot of deadheads. There were the deadheads. There was the jocks, of course, the fabulous people, and then there were the outcasts. And I was a member of the outcasts.
Oh, so
we had our own
in those teen movies. The little group, like the girl that's got like the black fingernails, and then there's the other. So you're part of that group?
Yeah, and we had our own little clique, and there were some nerds in our clique because they too were outcasts. And by nerd, they didn't fit in with everybody else, but they were like superiorly intelligent.
Yes,
I mean, these guys were like brilliant, and they chose to hang out with us, listening to the Ramones.
Interesting. Yeah.
So back to what you said about like the populace. How they feel about this testimony, and there being some sort of split, and a lot of people going for, a not guilty, and whether that reflects on the jury. I think it does, because as much as the people who think that she should walk are privy to information that the jurors might not be allowed to consider, so are the people who say that she's guilty. So I think it balances out. And, my experience of watching like cases on TV or working at court TV is it tends to be like a majority of that person did it,
Oh yeah. Overwhelming majority. In case we're starting to see more, I think there's more skepticism about the government and police now, and in this second incarnation of court TV. So I've seen a little less of that, and a little more skepticism, but still overwhelming, especially the folks who watch court TV and comment on social media. It's always been all the way guilt. And honestly, most of them are guilty. I mean, it's not Law and Order. It's not 50-50 that half the people get indicted or not guilty. It just doesn't work that way. Sue Fort is with you, Al. I am with you, Al. I still don't know if I've heard the truth yet.
Okay, thank you. That's what I
can't handle the truth.
But Scarlet Rose. Hi, Vinny. I read a comment on another channel. Folks at the funeral of O'Keefe overheard he was investigating a sex offense allegation in Albert, then lured back to the house party. I've heard nothing of that. I haven't heard it in the courtroom. I think if there was anything to that, I think the defense will make it part of their case. But so far, pre-trial and during the trial, I have not heard anything about that. But that would be quite devastating. That would be quite devastating, and we haven't heard that from the defense.
Right, and that's why I tell everyone: listen, you wait until both sides go. Okay, you don't go in and just say, "Yeah, he's." Well, I mean, there was a great episode of The King of Queens where.
Every episode is great in The King of Queens.
Jerry Stiller's on the jury, and then the prosecution starts the opening line, and he's like, that person's guilty as sin. He's already made up his decision in the opening, and then the defense made their opening. He goes, I don't think he's guilty. So I mean, you have to wait until the entire thing is, and then it turned out he got excused anyway. So he ended up being an alternate, so he wasn't even on the deliberation. But the point is, you need to wait until everything is in. Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. And June is clarifying. Karen is acting as her own lawyer. She said it about taxpayer money. And what's interesting is that there's a somewhat of a gag order taking place in this case. So there's a limitation on what lawyers can say, but a less limitation on KarenRead to speak. And she does speak, walking out of court every day, giving a few comments here and there. Every day, Matt Johnson from Court TV is asking her if she's going to testify, and she always points towards her lawyers. So I think she will take the advice of counsel on that one.
Well, just keep this in mind, too, that Al Capone used to always say after every trial or in the middle of trials that they were wasting the taxpayers' money with regards to going forward on this and things along those lines. So,
and then, ironically, he got convicted of tax evasion. So
tax evasion, that's correct. He got
he wasn't paying his fair share.
Ironically, well, that was because he owned a $1 million house and had an income of $1,700 a year. Okay, so that was part of the problem on that one. But
wrong with that? I got a deal. I got a deal.
But the interesting thing on that was that his attorneys, because this was such a new way of going after a criminal in this instance, that the statute of limitations had been blown, and that was a valid defense, which they never raised. And it was one of those things that you had to have raised, and it was an affirmative defense, and they never raised statute of limitations, because what they ended up getting the books on were years before, not necessarily the new stuff. And then they went after him on that. And the statute of limitations had been blown, but nobody looked to do that or to use that as a affirmative defense.
So De Niro as Capone in The Untouchables, a great movie. There's that scene where he's coming down the stairwell. And as far as this trial is concerned, and Allie, you're saying that you got to watch the whole thing. He says something to the effect of, when you have a championship prize fight, you wait to the end, to the last man standing. And and it relates to what you were saying about, I mean, I just had to throw in Untouchables. I'm sorry. It's fantastic.
By the way, big thank you to Melly, Frankie Figs, and Gen X.
Yay.
Working the chat room for us as our mods. Awesome job.
Gringa. Melly put me in detention.
She did. Well, yeah, she takes, keeps everyone in line. Gringa, it demonstrates he made up his mind too early, meaning another rush to judgment here, a rush to judgment. And that's interesting because that sort of changes the posture of this defense, right? And it was supposed to be, it's a frame job, but rush to judgment is different than frame job. Frame job is, it's not a rush to judgment. It's, I'm going after someone who didn't do it, right? And I'm protecting the person who did do it. So it's going to be interesting to see how the defense, because they have a lot of material to work with here in their closing arguments, how they sort of put their case and their arguments together for reasonable doubt here, and how aggressive will they be in continuing to allege the frame job here. Yep.
Well, I mean, look, if it turns out that's what it was, that's what it was. I haven't seen anything yet that it says that or has demonstrated it to me to a level where I'm comfortable either way. So if it comes out at the end that way, God bless.
By the way, over 4,000 live contemporaries viewers were live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the like button. Helps a ton. Facebook, share it. Make sure that you're following. On Twitch, do whatever Twitchers do. And on X, you kind of retweet
Twitchers do?
I don't know. I think like this. I don't know. Salty Bird, do they serve red herring? Can you eat herring?
Yes, of course.
Really?
Pickled herring is a delicacy in Jewish delis.
Oh, right. Pickled
herring.
That's right.
Pickled. Yes. Yeah, pickled herring. Yeah.
Okay. I'm the guy who's never afraid to admit I don't know something. What's a herring?
What's a herring?
Yeah. Isn't it like a seabird? It's a fish. It's a fish.
A heron is a seabird.
Heron is the seabird.
Herring is a fish.
It's a fish.
Okay. That's right. Remember,
I learned something.
You can tune a piano.
Herring? Do heron eat herring?
Remember, you can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish.
Right.
That's a joke that Rocky told Adrian on the first date.
That's right. Hello to Amanda saying hi to Vinny.
Hi, Vinny.
BC
Hey,
Scanner.
your eyes match your shirt.
There you go. BC Scanner. Al, do you agree? This case shows why you should always record police. FTP, film the police.
Whoa, I don't think that's quite what he meant.
Well, now police are filmed. They have body cameras at all times. So the answer to the question is it doesn't really matter. It's state law in New Jersey. I can't say anything about Massachusetts, but it is state law in New Jersey. They have body cams. Body cams go on as soon as the lights go on. So
and the officer didn't use his body cam when that the #1 golfer Scheffler was arrested, got in trouble for that. Captain Jenks today. An Alford plea would save face in this trial, but is that justice? An Alford plea.
An Alfred plea?
An Alford plea. I don't know if they have it in Massachusetts or not.
Yeah, I know.
This is where, and this is what Michael Peterson ended up entering in the staircase case, is where you concede that there's enough evidence to convict you, so you are convicted without saying you did it.
Oh, so it's like the term you used earlier in the show that you said you couldn't do in
no contest.
No contest. Yeah.
Nolo contendere.
Nolo contendere. Right. They don't have that. I don't think they have that in Commonwealths. I know they don't have that in Jersey.
Can't you just stand up and scream "No mas"?
I think that's a California thing.
And thank you, Captain Jenks.
What was the boxer's name? Roberto Duran.
Roberto Duran. Right. No mas. No mas.
Crime to Sleep, who's joining us, I guess, from Ireland. Come to Ireland and kiss the Blarney Stone. I don't drink either because of my blood type is AA.
You know you got a good audience when they make us laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Kissing the Blarney Stone is no easy feat, by the way, Vin. If you have any type of claustrophobia, it's a little tough.
Oh, really?
Okay, again, I'm the guy who's not ashamed to admit I don't know things. What does kissing the Blarney Stone actually mean? I've heard the expression.
It's like good luck.
So good luck. Do you actually kiss a stone or?
Yeah. Yeah.
Say hello to Eladia. Thank you, Eladia. Thanks for coming aboard, supporting.
Hello, Eladia.
The old days it was easy to do. At this stage of my life, I think I'd have to butter my hips to be able to get in, but that's besides the point.
Well, that's what I mean. What is it? A little enclosed space? Why do you say that?
Yeah, yeah. It goes back to the days of old when knights were bold, and I know I'm not going
to. Leah M.
Send a night out on a dog like this.
Leah M. Proctor wanted KR to go away, aka off herself. Telling, I think so. I'm just going to go through a few of these comments just to make sure we get to all of them. Melly, aside the controversy, justice for John O'Keefe.
Amen. That's right.
And the question is, what is justice for John O'Keefe, right? It's the truth. So hopefully at the end of the day, we get the truth when all the evidence is in. Sandy Knight, still waiting for some actual compelling evidence apart from snow and a bad investigation. Vinny, love that you're doing live streams. Right back at you. Sandy.
Hey, can you do that again? I like that move.
Sandy, the waitress I've been seeing has no desire for me. What's that song?
I don't know that one.
That's Asbury Park, Sandy. Asbury Park by Bruce.
Aaron Wilcuts. Vinny, will you say hi to my mom, Terry? Ready? On 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hi, Terry.
All right. We got another one here. McSpunky is following us. McSpunky's always in. Gotta love McSpunky. Okay, so before we run out of time, because I have to go. One thing really quickly, folks, I'm going to ask you to vote on two things. First, at this point of the case, right? I know all the evidence isn't in. At this point, would you vote guilty or not guilty? Guilty or not guilty on KarenRead? Okay, guilty or not guilty for the top charge here. The top charge, guilty or not guilty. Start throwing them into the chat. Throw them into the chat so we can get a quick flavor for it. And while you're doing that, at the end of the show, we have our Battle of the Bands. And the current leader, and it's still our leader for what actually is our theme song. It's the Vinny and the Tangents Lowdown mix. So I will now remind everyone of this song because, I'm seeing a lot of not guilties Oh my goodness. Oh, it is overwhelmingly not guilty right now.
Yep, it
This
is.
is unreal. This
Am I allowed to vote? Am I allowed to vote?
Yeah.
Not guilty.
Okay. So now you're going to vote on something else. You're going to vote on either song number 1 or song number 2. Song number 1 is the returning champion, the one that you know already. It's the Vinny and the Tangents Lowdown mix. All right. I'm sure everyone is singing along because they know the words already.
Vinny and the Tangents
Alamo
podcast.
Erasure.
Vinny has the blue eyes, out cracks the jokes. Jonesy stays behind his shades, entertaining all the folks. It's Vinny and the Tangents, true crime podcast. Load up all your comments, hit those super chats. Let's go smash that like button, so we can all have a blast. Vinny, Alan, Jonesy on the job. They're the Sugar Hill Gang of true crime. They're telling stories of days gone by. They take crime and turn into a good old time. It's Vinny and the Tangents, true crime podcast.
All right, folks, that's song number 1. Okay, song number 1. That's the Lowdown mix. And now it's time for today's challenger. And I'm calling this one Vinny and the Tangents, the Weezer Groove.
Oh.
True crime podcast. It's Vinny and the Tangents, true crime podcast. Vinny has the blue eyes, I'll cracks the jokes. Jonesy stays behind the shades, entertaining all the folks. It's Vinny and the Tangents, true crime podcast. Load up on the comments, hit the super chats, let's go smash that like button, so we can all have a blast. Vinny, Alan, Jonesy on the job. They're the Sugar Hill Gang of true crime, telling stories of days gone by. They take crime and turn it into a good old time. It's Vinny and the Tangents, true crime podcast. It's Vinny, it's the Tangents, it's the true crime podcast.
All right. What'd you think of that, Jonesy?
I actually like that one better. That slapping little bass going on there and everything. I think that one's a winner.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it's doing better than the prosecution. Weezer's beating the prosecution right now, and it's close. It is a close vote here. Wow. It is super close.
Is it close? I was seeing a lot of, oh, you mean for the song?
Yeah, for the songs.
I was seeing a lot of not guilties on the.
He's definitely not guilty.
Well, I got to tell you though, I did see a couple of hung juries, which was an interesting, interesting little insight.
This is
I'm
tough.
not sure it's Weezer though.
I know it's too early to say, but hung jury. Do they go again?
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. They'll try to work something out.
And actually, at that point, is a hung jury is really never really great for the defendant in most instances. Because,
a lot of times on the second one they get them right.
Oh yeah, more often than not.
Right now in the voting, 1 is slightly ahead. 1 is slightly ahead, our returning champion. So if you want Weezer, number 2, you got to vote now.
Vinny has the blue eyes, I'll cracks the jokes.
It's kind of a Green Day.
Entertaining all the folks.
What's that?
And that's kind of a Green Day feel. More so than Weezer. Weezer's a little more melodic. Green Day's got a little more punk to it. And I was like, and it also sounds like the song that was in the movie Bring It On, that the brother writes to Kristen Dunst. So,
what did you say it sounded like, Al?
Green Day.
I don't like Green Day, so I take my vote back.
Oh, where'd you guys go? There you are.
I had to step out for a moment. I had to see a man about a horse.
All right. It is too close to call. It is too close to call, folks. Wow. All right. I'm going to figure out what we're going to do with that. That is too close to call. Maybe we have them both advance. We may have them both advance. Wow. Okay. So we're just about out of time because I have to do my show tonight, 8 o'clock on Court TV. We'll be talking about Karen Read. We're also going to be talking tonight, 8 o'clock, about this story out in Washington and Idaho where this child is missing and the father did not drop the child off at a custody exchange and apparently has taken off with his fiancée with the baby. So we're going to dive into that. We're going to speak, I believe, with the baby's mother tonight. And meanwhile, the family of the father is speaking. It's a complicated story for me to tell in 15 seconds, but it's a big one. We're going to be talking about it tonight on Court TV. Al, this is it. So what do you want to say to the folks before you go?
All right. Well, Monday night, Court TV. I know that we weren't on last Monday, but we will hopefully be on this Monday, 9 to 10.
Maybe not.
I guess I've been given the hook.
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay. And if not, let's see. Anyone want to go for wings? Give me a call.
Wings and things. Jonesy, the radio legend, where can people find you?
Go to glennjones.net. Glenn with one N as mommy intended it to be. I'll be DJing live at the Hard Rock in Atlantic City tomorrow night for a sumo wrestling event.
Atlantic City.
Yes. Yes. It's pretty wild. glennjones.net is the place to find me.
Fantastic. So again, thanks to Melly, Frankie Figs, and to
Frankie
Jen
Figs.
X.
Yay.
Thank you for everyone for all the super stickers and the support. It is appreciated. I'll see you tonight at 8 o'clock. That's it. Why don't you say goodbye, Jonesy?
Goodbye, Jonesy.
Hit those super chats. Let's go smash that like button so we can all have a blast. Vinny, Al, and Jonesy on the job. They're the Sugar Hill Gang of true crime. They're telling stories of days gone by. They take crime and turn into a good old time. It's Vinny and the Tangents. True crime.